Have you ever left a conversation feeling off, like your emotions turned against you and you couldn't put your finger on why? Maybe you started questioning your own thoughts, your memory, maybe even your sanity. That quiet confusion, that's often the first trace of emotional manipulation. See, manipulation isn't always loud or obvious. It's not the red flags we think we'll see. It's subtle, quiet. It creeps in through charm, guilt, confusion, even what seems like affection. And by the time you realize what's happening, it's like you can't tell where your thoughts end and someone else's begin. This isn't just about spotting toxic people. It's about understanding what goes on inside you when someone starts warping your reality. Because the scariest part of manipulation isn't the manipulator, it's how your own mind turns into a maze. In this episode, we're breaking that down. We'll look at how emotional manipulation works, why it's so effective, and what it does to your internal world. How it reshapes your thoughts, bends your boundaries, and blurs your sense of self. But more importantly, we'll talk about how to see it coming, how to get out of it, and how to rebuild a version of you that's stronger, more clear, and rooted in self-trust. Because protecting yourself isn't just about seeing through others, it's about learning to see yourself clearly, even when the world tries to blur the lens. Let's get into it. So what exactly is emotional manipulation? It's a form of psychological control, where someone uses your emotions against you, not with force, with influence. The goal, power, control, or advantage. And the worst part, most of the time, you don't even realize it's happening. It hides behind concern, it wears the mask of affection. It doesn't shout, it whispers. At its core, emotional manipulation plays with your empathy, your fears, your need to be liked, to belong, to be good. A manipulator doesn't need to push you, they just nudge you into doubting yourself. And before you know it, you're doing all the work for them. Here are a few of the most common tactics. Gaslighting. This is a big one. Making you doubt your own memory, your perception, your reality. Think, that never happened. Or, you're being dramatic. Guilt tripping. Twisting your sense of responsibility or kindness to get compliance. You're not just saying no. You're being made to feel like a bad person for even thinking it. Love bombing. Overwhelming you with praise, affection, gifts, then suddenly pulling it all away. It's like a sugar rush, followed by emotional starvation. Silent treatment. Emotional withdrawal used as punishment. It creates anxiety, uncertainty, and makes you desperate to repair the connection. Projection. Accusing you of things they're actually guilty of, to throw you off balance and keep you defending yourself instead of seeing clearly. Now, the really disorienting thing? These tactics often come wrapped in care. The manipulator might say they're doing it for your own good. They might seem concerned or helpful, and because you care, because you want to be fair, kind, understanding, you end up second-guessing yourself. You start compromising, explaining, tolerating. And slowly, they move the goalposts of reality until one day you're not even sure what's real anymore. Let's go deeper. Why is this so effective? Why do smart, self-aware people fall into these traps? Because it doesn't start with them, it starts with us. Manipulators don't create our vulnerabilities, they exploit the ones already there. From childhood, we've been wired to seek connection, approval, safety. Back then, survival literally depended on being accepted by our parents, our peers, our community. That need doesn't just vanish when we grow up. We still crave love, belonging, and understanding. And when those needs are threatened, we bend, we shrink, we compromise, sometimes without even realizing it. There's also conflict avoidance, a huge factor. Many of us have been conditioned to believe that keeping the peace is more important than speaking the truth. We'll tolerate discomfort to avoid rocking the boat. Manipulators pick up on that. They sense the silence and use it to shift boundaries without pushback. Then there's self-doubt. Most of us carry it, even if it's buried deep. Doubts about our worth, our instincts, our ability to make good decisions. When someone comes along and subtly reinforces those doubts, it doesn't take much to start trusting their version of reality over your own. And finally, there's hope. Yep, hope. It seems like a strength, but when you're being manipulated, hope is often the thing that keeps you stuck. You hope they'll change. You hope things will go back to the way they were. You hope maybe this is just a phase. Hope makes you stay in something long past the point your gut tells you to go. Now let's talk about what this actually does to you. The scariest part isn't just the confusion, It's what happens to your sense of self. At first, it's subtle. You hold back your opinions just a little. You downplay your feelings to avoid drama. You question your own gut and lean more on their version of events. And slowly, the lines that define you, your values, your voice, your identity, they all start to blur. Psychologists sometimes call this a borrowed identity. It's when you slowly become the version of yourself that someone else wants, the version that's easier for them to handle, less threatening, more useful. And the longer you stay in that space, the more normal it starts to feel, even though deep down something's missing. You ask yourself, why don't I recognize myself anymore? Or why can't I trust my own thoughts? That's not weakness. That's manipulation doing its job. But here's the good news. Your real self isn't gone. It's still in there under the layers of doubt and confusion and silence. Reclaiming it starts with one shift. Stop asking, how do I fix the relationship? And start asking, how do I find myself again? And that's where we'll pick up in part 2. When your mind becomes the battlefield and confusion starts to run the show, we'll explore how to reclaim your thoughts, trust your gut again, and break the invisible chains that have held you in place for far too long. So let's talk about what really happens inside your head when manipulation takes root. You know something feels off, but you can't explain it. Logic clashes with emotion. You want to act, but something holds you back. This is where emotional manipulation becomes internalized. It's no longer just about what the manipulator is doing. It's about how your own mind starts working against you. This mental conflict has a name: cognitive dissonance. It's the psychological tension that arises when you're holding two opposing beliefs at the same time. Like, this person is hurting me, but also they care about me. Or, I need to leave, right alongside, but maybe I'm overreacting. That inner tug of war wears you down, and here's where it gets dangerous. To escape the discomfort, your mind starts rewriting the truth. You rationalize, you downplay, you tell yourself, maybe I misunderstood, or they're just going through something. The longer that dissonance continues, the more likely you are to side with a version of reality that feels less painful, even if it's less true. And here's the twist. After a while, the manipulator doesn't even have to gaslight you anymore. You start doing it to yourself. This is what we call self-gaslighting. You second-guess your instincts before anyone else does. You question your memories. You dismiss your feelings as too much or probably wrong. You don't even need the manipulator to correct you anymore. You've internalized the script. This is exactly what emotional manipulation is designed to do. It doesn't just distort how you see the other person. It trains you to distrust yourself. And once you're doubting your own voice, your own experience, your own worth, guess who gets to rewrite the narrative? Them. So let's break down the most common mental traps that keep people stuck in manipulation. Because once you can see the trap, you can start disarming it. 1. Cognitive dissonance. Like we talked about, it's the mental strain of conflicting beliefs. The manipulator treats you poorly, but you also remember the good moments. So you try to bridge the gap, and that keeps you stuck in limbo. The mind wants relief, not truth, so it leans into whatever story feels safest, even if it's false. 2. Over-justification. This one's tricky. You start explaining away someone's behavior, constantly. They didn't mean it. They had a hard childhood. They're just stressed. While empathy matters, over-justifying someone's actions turns you into their defense attorney, when you should be protecting your own peace. 3. The self-doubt spiral. You've been told you're too sensitive, forgetful, dramatic. So often you begin to believe it. You question your memory, your reactions, your choices, and once you stop trusting yourself, you become easier to control. 4. Hope is bait. You cling to those moments when things were good. You believe that version of the person is still in there. If I just do this right, we'll get back to that. But here's the truth. Hope can be a trap when it's tied to potential, not patterns. 5. Confusion masquerading as insight. Manipulators are masters of vague explanations, false logic, and even spiritual-sounding language that makes you feel like the confused one. You're not evolved enough to understand. You're reacting out of ego. The fog isn't your failure. It's their tool. So how do you break out of this fog? It starts with recognition, that moment where the confusion cracks just a little and you see the pattern, not just the incident. It's not about one bad argument. It's about the way the same argument happens over and over with the same script, the same emotional drain, the same slow erasure of your voice. Recognition doesn't always come with a lightning bolt. Sometimes it's quiet, a moment after a conversation when you realize you're emotionally wiped again, a recurring feeling of walking on eggshells. Or maybe someone says something, a friend, a therapist, and suddenly the whole situation looks different. Other times it's your body that speaks first. You feel tightness in your chest, knots in your stomach. You're constantly tired, anxious, restless. You feel numb. These aren't random symptoms, they're signals. Your nervous system knows before your logic catches up. Here's the shift. You stop absorbing. You start observing. You name the patterns. You see the cycles. And the moment you name it, you take your first step back toward power. Because clarity is the beginning of freedom. You may not act right away, that's okay. But the illusion is broken. You can't unsee it now, and that takes us to what's next. Manipulation is powerful, but now you have to learn how to protect yourself. Not just from the manipulator, but from the thought patterns inside you that allowed it to take hold. Now that you've recognized the signs of emotional manipulation, the next step is learning how to protect yourself, not just from manipulators, but from the internal habits and thought loops that allowed it to happen in the first place. This isn't about building walls, it's about creating a shield, one that's strong, flexible, and rooted in awareness. Because when you know who you are and what you stand for, you're a lot harder to sway, twist, or gaslight. Let's break down how to build that shield. 1. Ground yourself in your core values. Before you can stand your ground, you need to know your ground. What do you believe in? What matters to you? What kind of behavior will you accept, and what won't you tolerate? Most people don't lose themselves all at once. They slowly drift, one compromise at a time, until they're far from where they started. Knowing your values gives you an internal compass. So write them down, revisit them often. When you feel lost, those values are your map back to yourself. 2. Rebuild your emotional boundaries. Boundaries aren't walls to keep people out. They're fences to keep you intact. A clear emotional boundary says, this is what I will allow, this is what I won't, and this is how I will respond if that line is crossed. If someone consistently dismisses your feelings, blames you for everything, or makes you feel crazy for having a reaction, it's not your job to explain yourself until they understand. It's your job to protect your energy. You don't owe unlimited access to people who drain you. 3. Question emotional logic. Manipulators often frame their feelings as facts. If I'm hurt, you must be wrong. If I'm offended, you did something bad. But emotions, while valid, aren't always an accurate reflection of reality. Feelings are real, but they're not the full story. So when someone uses emotion to corner you, pause and ask, is this true, or does it just feel true? Learning to separate your truth from someone else's narrative is a superpower. 4. Practice pattern recognition. Don't just listen to what people say. Watch what they repeat. Do you always end up apologizing, even when you're not at fault? Do you feel confused or ashamed after every disagreement? Does it always feel like you're the one adjusting, changing, or compromising? Manipulation isn't usually about isolated incidents. It's about cycles. If it keeps happening, it's not an accident. It's a pattern. And once you see the pattern, you can start stepping out of it. 5. Create reality anchors. Emotional manipulation clouds your judgment, makes you question your memory, and distorts your sense of reality. To counter that, you need external checkpoints that help you stay grounded. Start journaling. Document what happened in a conversation, what was said, how you felt, what you noticed. Talk to someone you trust, a friend, a therapist. Say it out loud. Here's what happened. Am I missing something? These reality anchors help pull you back to your truth when your mind starts to drift into self-doubt. 6. Trust your body before your brain. Your body often knows the truth before your mind does. That tight feeling in your chest, the knot in your stomach, the exhaustion after seeing someone, those are signals, not weaknesses. Your nervous system is giving you data. Listen to it. Even if your brain is trying to justify, explain, or forgive, your body may already be telling you the answer. 7. Reclaim your voice. You might have learned to stay quiet to keep the peace. You got used to editing yourself, softening your words, or swallowing your opinions. It's time to reverse that. Speak up, even if your voice shakes. Say no, disagree, express what you feel even if it's not perfect. Reclaiming your voice doesn't mean being loud, it means being honest. It's how you take up space in your own life again. Because here's the truth. The most powerful protection isn't just walking away from the manipulator. It's becoming the kind of person who can see manipulation early and walk away before it runs deep. And that starts with knowing your worth, clearly, unapologetically, and consistently. Now, if you've been through long-term manipulation, you might still be dealing with a deeper question. Who am I now? You might feel like a stranger to yourself. You pause before sharing opinions because you're not sure if they're yours or just what someone else conditioned you to think. Even small decisions, what to wear, what to eat, what you like, can feel foggy or loaded with invisible pressure. When you've been emotionally manipulated, especially for a long time, rebuilding your identity can feel like waking up in a house that looks familiar, but none of the furniture belongs to you. You stand in the middle of it and think, wait, did I ever choose this? You start to question everything. Do I actually believe this? Is this how I feel, or how I was taught to feel? Am I making this choice for me, or out of fear? This is the quiet aftermath of manipulation, the identity crisis. It's not about drama or explosions. It's about a strange, creeping emptiness. Not a lack of identity, but a sense that it's been edited. So let's talk about how to rebuild that identity, honestly, slowly, intentionally. Number 1, accept the emptiness as a beginning, not a failure. The silence in your head isn't proof that something's broken. It's space. When you remove someone else's voice from your mind, it gets quiet, and that's a good thing. Now you can hear your own voice again. You're not starting from scratch, you're starting from clarity. And in that space, you get to ask, what do I believe now? What do I value? What matters to me today, not just what used to? Let the discomfort sit for a bit. It means you're healing. Number 2, reintroduce yourself to yourself. After manipulation, the question, who am I, feels heavy. So take it slow, start small. Notice what gives you energy. What makes you feel calm, curious, authentic. Try things. Eat food you haven't tried in a while. Read a book you pick out without anyone else's opinion. Take a walk and listen to your thoughts. This is the process of becoming you again, on purpose. 3, watch out for the residue. Even when the manipulator is gone, their influence might linger. You might still flinch at setting boundaries. You might still hear their voice in your head when you make a decision. You might still downplay your needs, your joy, your anger. This doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're still unlearning. Notice the reflex. Pause. Ask yourself, is this my voice or theirs? Then choose again. Each conscious choice is a step back toward your center. 4, redefine safety. Sometimes after manipulation, we confuse safety with familiarity, even if that familiarity was harmful. We think, at least I knew how that dynamic worked. But true safety doesn't mean zero discomfort. It means freedom. Freedom to speak without fear. Freedom to rest without guilt. Freedom to exist without editing yourself. When you start choosing situations, people, and environments that honor that freedom, you're building a new foundation of safety. 5, rebuild trust, especially with yourself. One of the most damaging parts of manipulation is that it breaks your trust in your own mind. You begin to question your memory, your perception, your intuition. To rebuild that trust, start giving weight to your own experiences again. Did that interaction feel off? Trust that. Did you feel dismissed? That's real. You don't need a second opinion on your truth. The more you validate your own feelings, the more your inner compass gets stronger. And soon, it starts pointing you in the right direction without hesitation. 6, give yourself permission to grieve. Even if you're glad it's over, even if you're relieved to be free, it's okay to grieve. Grieve the time you lost. Grieve the version of you that got silenced. Grieve the illusion you held on to, hoping they'd change. This isn't weakness, it's closure. And it creates space for the next version of you to step in. Stronger, clearer, wiser. 7, don't heal alone. Healing from manipulation can be deeply personal, but it doesn't have to be solitary. Find safe people. Talk to a therapist or a coach. Join a support group. Connect with others who've walked through similar storms. Being witnessed in your healing is powerful. It reminds you that you're not broken, not crazy, and definitely not alone. Here's the final truth I want to leave you with. Emotional manipulation doesn't mean you're weak. It means you were human, and someone took advantage of that. But now you're aware. You're no longer handing over your power. You're asking questions, drawing lines, making choices. You're building a self that isn't defined by fear, guilt, or someone else's control. You're not just surviving anymore. You're coming home to yourself. And in that home, you get to redecorate. Every choice, every boundary, every honest word you speak, it's like moving the furniture back into place. You're rewriting the story, and this time, it's yours.